Hi. Today is another smart day at SmartTalk, as we have Roy Baladi from SmartRecruiters, of all people. Hi, Roy.
Hi.
How are you?
Pretty well.
Roy is an expat. He's here on vacation, and so we grabbed him. Roy works at SmartRecruiters in the US. He's going to tell us more about that. He also has a big entrepreneurial experience, and I think it's going to be pretty interesting. How are you finding Lebanon?
I'm loving Lebanon. Every time I come home, it's refreshing to be with family, you know.
The good food?
Parents growing, have a niece and nephew now, so new life coming in, so the dynamic changes every time I come home.
Well, welcome home.
Thank you.
Roy, what's SmartRecruiters?
SmartRecruiters is a recruiting technology startup founded 8 years ago by a French guy called Jérôme Ternique. He was on his third startup, so he's a serial entrepreneur himself, all in recruiting. And he built it with the idea that anyone who wants to hire can hire. And so it's a platform where you can create your job, receive your candidates, interview, offer, hire. And he started by building it for free for anyone to use.
Okay.
And since it's grown a lot in the last 8 years, and 4 years in, we had, because we were free and it was a modern platform and it just did everyone a good service, then 3,000 companies started to use us from all walks of life. Trucking companies, elementary schools, science labs, architectural studios. And then we started to see some large companies come in and join in, but all for free. And we were not going in the right financial direction because we were not earning enough money. And this is when we pivoted to become an enterprise business, and we realized that this was the best way to make money. And that's when I joined. I joined 4 years ago as a product manager. And my goal was to take care of the candidates, make sure that they had a good experience, and give them transparency in their application, because when candidates apply now, it's an auto-reply, and then they never hear back, unless you call them for an interview.
We're gonna get back to that and to how SmartRecruiters is monetizing today this and your whole life living in a US based startup. It's in San Francisco?
Yes. I mean, it's quite decentralized, but one of the main hubs is San Francisco.
All right. But before that, tell us about Roy. Who's Roy?
Me?
Yes, you. Who else?
Grew up here, grew up in Lebanon, went to IC, and then left for college, went to Virginia Tech. Loved computers, so studied computer science and math, and then added finance, and what I wanted to do was to work on Wall Street. So I got a job at Citigroup in equity derivatives, and I was there for 4 years, 2006 to 2010, so during the financial crash. That was quite a roller coaster. 2010, markets calmed down. I got a bit bored and jaded by Wall Street. I left, and I started to think about, why did I go into Wall Street in the first place? And I realized that I wasn't properly guided. Like, I just went there because my dad told me that's the best job in the world, is to be a broker at Merrill Lynch. And so I was just hell-bent on that idea, and I never really thought about, like, what skills do I have? So I started a company and hired a professor of psychology at Columbia, and to build an assessment to assess skills and interests of people, where you can self-analyze yourself, and then it gives you the best careers and then takes you to that job. And
so that's Freshgrad.
That was the start of Freshgrad.
Tell us about Freshgrad.
So Freshgrad is your career guide, where you take an assessment where you rank your own skills and your own interests against one another, and you get a better sense of who you are, and then it juxtaposes those to the keys to success in every career. And it then ranks them for you. And then from there, tells you who you know at these companies through your Facebook and LinkedIn networks, and then pulls the jobs for you, tells you who sponsors visas, and then takes you straight to that job so you can apply and make a more informed decision for yourself.
From what you're telling us, this is coming from a real, you were looking for where you fit.
Yeah, I was user number one, and then I got a lot of other users, or like 10,000 users who use the product over time, plus a few enterprises. But yes, it came out of a confusion in my mind.
And what happened with Freshgrad? Tell us about more. How did it grow? What happened with the company?
So with Freshgrad, we started the thing I wanted to understand is, where do I fit? Like, I have these skills, and what am I good for? I had no idea. And as I started to learn about a science called psychographics, which is taught in social organizational psychology departments at universities. So I started to work with Columbia University's psychology department, and we started to build this product. And raised $1 million, $1.2 million, and launched this product called Freshgrad.com that allowed college students to get guided. And then once we launched it, I then went to enterprises and I told them, hey, once we get to a few 100,000 candidates, would you come and hire on this platform? And I got a consistent message, which was, I'll say the lady at Goldman Sachs, so she was in charge of all university recruitment. She told me, and I got the same message from Hershey's, same message from GE. She said, I go to 75 universities or 200 universities, depending on the company. But for the university that I don't go to, I could use this product. And in my mind, I was like, this is not a glowing endorsement. This is like, we're the other category. But then she said, but you know what would be helpful? We hire 2,000 analysts every year at Goldman Sachs. And we put them in rotation programs, sales, research, trading. Everybody wants to be a trader, nobody wants to be in research. Can your algorithm come and tell me who fits where? I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it's built for. I just haven't purposed it that way. And that got me thinking I should go the enterprise route. And I abandoned the B2C market, and I went to a B2B market blindly. And there I fell, in part, prey to the long sales cycles, to the bureaucracies. And I started to build enterprise software right from the get-go. And that was one of the main mistakes, that I didn't really give the B2C arm a real good shot. And
but that would have required probably a lot of cash also, going the B2C route.
And I had raised 1.2 mil. So I had some cash, but I didn't completely follow it through. And instead I started to build enterprise software that would, candidates come to a company called Nexius, 2,000 employees, or Sleepy's, a few thousand employees, or Kaplan, SAT test prep, and these guys. As they apply, they would take that assessment. And then internally, inside their system, I would rank the candidates on the jobs they applied to, so that you know how to prioritize, but also on the jobs they didn't apply to, saying, hey, this candidate would be a great fit for that role. That's one of the use cases. And then a few others as we try to find a product market fit.
That's very interesting, because in Lebanon, we rarely get people who accept to talk about a failure, about a project that stopped, that didn't work, and how they rebounded. But I mean, I don't know of any entrepreneur that hasn't failed a few times. It's part of the learning experience. And so we tell every day, we tell the entrepreneurs, it's okay to fail. So thank you for that. At what point did you know, okay, this is not working? You know, I need to move on. And how do you move on into something else?
So I was running out of cash. That was pretty obvious.
So, I can't pay.
Yeah, I slimmed down the team. I had 3 enterprises I was working with. At this point, I was working with Kaplan, and to do internal career pathing, so that you're at the company, want to know where you grow. I can map out the best career paths internally to Kaplan. And I really wanted to give this pilot a chance, and I was running out of money. So I had to find a job for myself, so I can pay employees. And I didn't want to raise any more money until I had the right product market fit. I didn't want to get any more cash. So what I did there is I used Freshgrad's algorithm on myself to find myself a job. And when I did it, it showed me a list of companies. Among them, up top, was a company called LearnVest. And I didn't know at this point, like went to Wall Street, finance skills, machas, has nothing to do with what I want to do, which is work at a startup, and didn't want to work at Citigroup or large enterprises anymore. And I did a bit of everything to keep a company together, some fundraising, some products, because I didn't really know what I did. And then the job was product and operations manager. I was like, okay, I read the description, I'm like, I did all this already. And I looked up the company, it was a 10-minute walk away. So I printed the job description, printed my resume, and walked over there. I went up and I spoke to the first person I met. I said, hi, my name is Roy. I see you have a job for a product operations manager. Can I speak to someone about it? Like, do you have an appointment? No. But I can do everything.
That's
can I speak
entrepreneur's guts.
And then it so happened that a lady comes and says, I'm the chief operating officer. I'll talk to you for 10 minutes. And this was a product and operations manager. 10 minutes start, I'm sitting with her. I was like, okay, so look, I can do all this stuff. So why did you post that job? What problem are you trying to solve? And she told me what the problem was. She told me, well, this is how I would solve it. These are one of two approaches I would take. And that turned into 3 hours, into an offer, and I started the month 2 days later.
I love the approach of going to a job interview and asking the interviewer, what problem are you trying to solve?
That's a good, yeah.
That's your
straight to it.
That's your entrepreneur mind. Even as an interviewee, going to a job, you're thinking problem. How do I solve a problem?
Yeah.
Listening to you, we can say you're probably an expert in the HR tech market. How's this market today? What's the size of the market? I mean, approximately. Do you have an idea how big it is?
I mean,
it's probably huge.
If you look at it from the standpoint of I am a person looking to find a job, therefore, as a company, I need to advertise in order to bring people in, the market is huge. And the flag bearer is LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is valued at $25 billion. So in terms of, it's between 50 and $100 billion, I would say, in terms of how much money a company is willing to spend. Because when I think about what's the size of the market, it's not about, like, it's how much I'm willing to spend, because if I'm a company and a startup and I want to try to earn some of it, or because I can do it better, then it's that piece. So I think there's 50 to 100 billion, I would say. But then on the technology side, which is the part that SmartRecruiters is addressing, which is the software that you license in order to do your work, it's the largest company is Taleo and these guys, and maybe even Workday now. It's about a few $1 billion, between $5 and $10 billion.
How big is SmartRecruiters today?
Now we're 220 employees.
Okay, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
But this is a very competitive market. What makes SmartRecruiters better? I mean, take us, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm listening to this interview. What makes a startup able to go compete with big players? Because let me rephrase that. You're a startup with many competitors, I guess.
Yeah.
But at the same time, your supply side, I would say, are also huge players.
Yeah.
I mean, be it LinkedIn or the others.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, aren't you stuck in the middle? How does this work, and how do you approach that? Because this is the case in many industries.
Yeah, and especially this one, because this one is by and large, it's a replacement market. Yeah. So most large companies, like if you're thinking Bank Audi, they have an ATS. They're not on getting emails for resumes, because then you lose these emails. They have a system. So if they want to use SmartRecruiters, they have to A, know about SmartRecruiters, B, say, okay, I'm happy to switch. So why SmartRecruiters? Exactly to your point. It's about having a unique proposition, because you can do something better or faster or cheaper, one of these three, right, in order to replace someone. Then in our case, it's definitely better. So the industry, these large companies like Taleo and Brassring, each one worth $2 billion. In 2010, they were all acquired by larger players like SAP. They are built in the 90s. We were built 8 years ago on top of a modern platform with very good and clean UI. So besides the fact that it's easy to use, we have this, on top of it, an app store of recruiting, which we went and through an open platform and said, you know what? Any recruiting technology out there, we will connect with. We're happy, and now they're connecting with us. So now we have an app store for recruiting with 500 different recruiting technologies, 200 different or 300 different job boards by now. So wherever you are, you can post immediately from SmartRecruiters without creating an account. Through 30 different assessment vendors, cognitive, job fit, team fit, live coding, background checks, reference checks, video interview platforms, referral tools, onboarding tools. So any technology you want is already plugged into SmartRecruiters. And so we've used the IQ and the engineers, basically, of the entire world by just simply immediately connecting to SmartRecruiters without having to have a second platform that you log into.
You're making it much simpler, I guess. For an HR recruiter. I mean, for a company.
It's become the single platform that you use in order to do anything you want in recruiting. And that very few can claim that.
Who does Smart Recruiters sell to? I mean by that, because this is also very common in let's say, in the fintech industry or whatever. I mean, do you sell for people selling in the B2B? Because at the end of the day, you're in the B2B sector. Do you sell to the HR or do you sell to IT?
Both. You have to get, so HR is the one that will come in with a love. They're the ones who feel the pain. They use a system that hiring managers don't log into. No one likes their recruiting system. And so HR, when they look at Smart Recruiters, they're like, I'm on board. IT is the one that can kill the deal. Compliance is also another one that can kill the deal. And so if for any reason it's not easy to start with Smart Recruiters, import all your candidates, all your jobs, and all your notes and messages from your previous system, load in any other platforms that you're using on Smart Recruiters, then IT can kill the deal. And so by virtue of being such an open platform and having case studies where we've replaced recruiting systems in almost every vertical. So right now, by now, our customers are Visa, Bosch, IKEA, Alaska Airlines, Equinox Gyms, McDonald's just signed in with us. So now it's like all these large
But once you have
enterprises.
all these clients, do you grow? I mean, it's a strategic decision. It's not easy. Do you grow into being the kings of recruitment, of making recruitment better, as you said?
Yeah.
Or do you grow into becoming full scale, a full HR solution, like managing employees, at what point, where do you decide you want to be?
So this strategy obviously is shaped by Jérôme, right? And for him, his first mantra is eradicate unemployment. I have been working as Jérôme for 25 years, built a recruiting company that's all over Europe, and then I went to digital and then built Mr. Ted that was sold to Lumes. So my heart is with recruiters in making life easy for them. And so that's all he's focused on. And therefore, that's all we are focused on in terms of getting the simplest product for recruiters to be able to bring in people and bring in the best quality talent. And so once we are at a point where we've replaced some of the companies that, or a lot of companies at like recruiting technologies at a lot of companies, we're thinking about now we're getting into a lot of machine learning. And how do you become more intelligent as a recruiter? How do you let the system be your assistant in order to save you time and get you better quality candidates? And now we're looking to measure, I don't think it's ever been done, the quality of hire. Once you've hired someone 90 days in, would you hire this person again on a scale?
That's the $1 million question.
Exactly. So now our minds are all focused on that one question. And making sure that the technology is whole, rather than saying, okay, let's spread ourselves into more HR things and get into payroll and other things, which is not our strength.
You just spoke about Jérôme. So again, for those that are just listening at this part, is the founder of Smart Recruiters. About his, I would say, the focus he wants to bring into solving recruiters' problems.
Yeah.
Or making their life better, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
That's a very common trait I find in these interviews and in my own life as an entrepreneur with people is the ones who succeed are the ones who focus.
Yeah.
And do you feel that mantra very powerful at Smart Recruiters on a daily basis? Are you is the whole company really focused on that?
This is the first time I've been in an environment where every single person knows what they have to do, and it comes because of our 4 core values, which is the first time I'm in a company where we emphasize they're on the walls, we celebrate them. Whenever we praise someone, we say on which values they've displayed, and also how the structure is done in terms of what we call a SMART plan, where you start with your values, your priorities, rank order them, your obstacles for each, and what are your top 3 KPIs that you set for yourself at the start of every quarter to the end of that quarter. And also for the year, so that if you look at that one sheet of your KPIs, that's what you got to do.
That's I think a critical lesson for every entrepreneur out there is focus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Focus. And we've had many guests here telling us, investors telling us the same thing, is focus.
Yeah.
Stop divesting, and sometimes it's very difficult.
Yeah.
How is, I mean, I guess today you're very much US based as a company.
No, actually, of the 220
That was a trick.
employees, we have 40 in San Francisco-ish, 20 in Washington State, but 70 in Krakow, Poland,
Okay.
20 in Berlin now. This office was created a year and a half ago through an acquisition of a startup, and then 10 in Paris-ish, 5 to 10 in London.
And the Mino, we're here.
Yeah, so we're right now the team in Europe is covering the Middle East and Africa,
Okay.
but Asia and the Middle East is really calling our name. We're closing lots of deals, and so at some point we're going to start bringing people like local, so that it's much more of a like focused. Exactly. So you have people who are just purely focused on that market.
What's a typical? Take us through a typical day in your life.
Ooh, I've had
In a US startup.
I've had 3 careers at SmartRecruiters in just 4 years. So starting as a product manager, I would be in at 8 and stay till usually 8.
So are you telling me entrepreneurs and people working in startups don't start at 12
No.
and sleep all day?
No, it isn't the case in many startups, but I think
No,
those who wake up
ones,
early,
but-
yeah. So those who wake up early and start their day early and focus and already have like the top things I want to do and start with it are the ones who eventually win. So you
Hard work counts.
there's no secret to it. It's just hard work, focus, going all in the right direction. You maximize the human potential that you have. But as a product manager, you are, because I was working with the engineers in Krakow, so every morning I'd have a sprint call, work with the dev team, and then take a look at where they're at, what we accomplished, what we're doing for next week, any blockers, unblock them within an hour. And then after that, for the next couple of hours, I would just make sure that I unblock everyone through wrapping up emails. But starting noon and up, I could do anything creative that I wanted. I could think about the next product. I could think about some user testing and sit with customers and then interview them to really understand their pain point or how to solve a particular problem. I could be interviewing candidates or just even going on the street and interviewing people. I could be doing some design exercises. We did a lot of those, and
You get that freedom to be creative at SmartRecruiters.
yeah, because all you have to do is deliver on the product that you said you were going to deliver. Besides that, you're the CEO of your own job. That's one of the 4 values. So this was the day as a product manager. Last November, Jérôme asked me he's like, hey, our head of partnerships just left. Would you like to take that role? I feel like you could do well in there. So that's where that led to like head of marketplace role. So basically looking after the app store of recruiting. And this is all about auditing how are introductions happening between customers and partners to smooth that process and streamline it so that you're able to automate as much as you can. Who are the partners that are in the market that are worthwhile bringing in and are knocking on our door? What kind of experience are they getting? And how are customers and how are we putting them in front of customers and knowing what customers want so that we can pair them in a scalable way?
I sense in everything you're telling me in your day, in your typical day, a sort of focus on, I'll say again focus, but a sort of obsession on making it better all the time, making it better for your client.
What Kaizen, this is one of the things that our engineers say. It's smarter is the value for that. It's doing what you do every day, but being aware of some of the things that are holding you back or some of the pieces of friction and just doing them a little bit better. Whatever it may be, even if you automate a small process, become 1% better every day, you'd get much better. That's very true.
Your experience, I mean, just to get back to this, your experience into working with a established company, Citigroup, versus being an entrepreneur versus being, working in a startup where, in a sense, you're an entrepreneur also. The way you're describing your life at SmartRecruiters, and that's great. What's the difference between the two worlds? I mean, for you, obviously, you prefer startups, but the startup life. But what would you say is the major difference, if there is just one? I don't know, maybe 2.
I would say that a sense of ownership at a startup is much higher than a sense of ownership if I work at GE. I mean, GE is ginormous. With or without me, they're going to succeed. At SmartRecruiters, on the other hand, if I fuck up, the likelihood of SmartRecruiters not moving forward is going to, I mean, it's, when I joined, we were 60 employees. I'm one of 60, you know? It's going to impact the likelihood of the company growing. The products I own, which is the full candidate experience, is going to impact all candidates. So the responsibility that you have is different when you join in, at minimum, like when it's a small versus large company. But then afterwards, I would say it's seeing the end in sight. So at Citigroup, there were 8 layers of management. I had never met Chuck Prince. I kind of did a little bit, but...
He's the CEO.
The CEO of Citigroup globally. And so what is his direction? How is he taking this ship? How often do you see him? What does he want to do? You just know the direction of 1 or 2 managers above, but they take their directions from 2 or 3 managers above, and communication gets lost in translation or through the layers. Whereas in startups, it's clear.
It's usually a more flat structure. Yeah. Roy, to go back a little bit to your Lebanese side, I heard you were a bit involved with the Lebanese community in the US.
Yes.
First of all, is there a structured Lebanese startup ecosystem or entrepreneurial ecosystem in the US?
Yeah, absolutely. There is life as well as the...
It happens.
Tech Wadi, but it's not just Lebanese, it's Middle Eastern. This is in San Francisco, life is in New York. And yeah.
But do you sense that help? Do you sense that there is a network that if somebody's looking for a job, they're going to be helped? In the startup world, if somebody's creating a company, you know, there's somebody holding their hand.
Yeah, I do get calls from time to time. So I'm at a point in my life where I haven't really sought to look for the network, which is why it's like not even that involved personally now. I was a lot more earlier. I was a lot more with SEAL, Social Economic Action for Lebanon, which is pooling resources from Lebanese expats who have done well and then bring those resources into grassroots project in Lebanon. This, my heart is completely in, and I was very involved in. But there is a network there. So if you reach out to any Lebanese there, and then you guys have, and then I was like immediately introducing you to all the Lebanese who are in startups that fit the profile that you're looking for, so that you can immediately interview them and meet them. And so that always happens. That definitely happens. So there's a lot of there is a good amount of solidarity, absolutely.
Would you ever come back to Lebanon?
Big question, tough answer. I would never say never. But I also don't know where I'm going to be in a year, and I'm open to anywhere, right? I mean, I'm looking at China, and I'm really impressed by what's going on there, and I feel that if I don't learn Mandarin now, this part of the world is going to be blocked away, and I'll be oblivious to it, and I don't like that to happen. I was just in Berlin, and I loved it, so I'm open to any place.
How important is continuous learning in Roy's life?
This is the theme. This is the theme. Yeah, if I feel like I'm not learning or my brain is not processing, or including myself, like learning about myself, like the theme of this year is self-love, which is a completely different tangent, but it's basically what I live trying to understand. What is it that who I am, what I'm doing here, and how am I impacting people around me? How are people feeling after we have a conversation? Yeah, just being positive, trying to be positive. And outside, but now recent realizations are that if you actually appreciate yourself and listen to yourself more, it's more authentic.
Self-love, positive, happy.
Yeah, everything comes from a lot comes from that. And so I've been really exploring that topic.
That's beautiful words. Can't speak anymore. Beautiful words to end this interview with. Self-love, success. And I wish you all the best, Roy.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming at SmartTalk today.
Thanks so much.
And lots of successes.
Thank you.
Thanks.